Let's do it.
Attention, people of Earth, I have an important announcement to make.
Oh, no!
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Good morning!
Okay.
Tape deck alert. Tape deck alert.
Thank you.
Brilliant!
And here we are again. Saturday, January 8th. And in my neck of the woods in the mid-Atlantic states, it's like 14 degrees outside. It's supposed to be a high in like the high of 28 and then 23. But tomorrow is going to be thunder showers and 100% chance of rain. And it's going to be 40. So we still have all the snow on the ground. Do you imagine what's going to happen? My roof is going to be, it's going to be raining inside the house. The title of this show is They Control the Flow of Information, 8 January 22. I believe that YouTube is shadow banning this video. If you can see it, acknowledge it in the chat. But we've already pretty much have that evidence down, pat. Unless you have the URL of this, you know, they're not letting you see this. I just wanted to show you these things. So, you know, they have you get these things in the mail from MasterCard, right? And of course, now, you know, there's an interesting thing here. Acceptance required, whatever that's supposed to mean. Here's another one. MasterCard. And, you know, there's a couple of things that you have to be very weary of right now. And that's what this show is going to be. It's going to be semi-flow of consciousness, but I'm going to impart with you.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Some serious information today that's going to, you know, help you. Yeah, this is insane. You're pre-approved for TIVA. See, they put the card-like thing on there with the acceptance code to encourage someone to steal it from your porch, obviously. Get a 400-line credit, or a 400-line has been reserved especially for you at 36. Let's see if you can see that. See that? 36% interest. And you know interest rates are going up, so I doubt if that's a fixed rate, which means, you know, it's conceivable that on some of these high-interest credit card offers that they send out, you know, this should be illegal, you know, literally. But this was part of that banking act they passed a while ago, some Democrats. You know, of course, Republicans, I think, signed on to it, too. But the point of the thing is, yeah, it's two sides of the same counterfeit coin when it comes to politics. Anyway, so here's another one. Verb. Credit limit up to, where is it? Up to 750, but it clearly then gets it. I mean, the paperwork here, Continental Credit Protection. Yeah, see, this one says 25 to 29.99, but if you look under there, there's some language which you may not be able to read. It says this APR will vary with market based on the prime rate. So they know that you may not be aware because you might not follow the financial stuff, because that's all I really follow. I don't give a shit about the news because it's all fake. The Fed has signaled that they're going to raise interest rates 3 times this year and 3 times in the following year. So, and again, they put this card in here, all this information, your name, your address. I mean, it's really not hard, you know. And then there's those sites on the internet, you know, tell me this thing, you know, this is what you do with them. You don't have to really shred them, just do them in. I mean, you know, if somebody's going to steal your identity, they're going to steal your identity. I mean, that's one of these other things that you have to accept, right? Pathways to work, recipes, class. You know, this is from my like health insurance. Let me take this shadow band thing down for a second. This is from like my health care type of thing. And it's like, you know, classic recipes, macaroni and cheese, honey mustard pork chops. I mean, people wonder why they got an obesity problem. I know it's a comfort food, but that's why they call it a comfort food. So is a hamburger and ribs. Well, anyway, so spam is here to stay. Fraudulent banking practices are here to stay. Inflation is here to stay. You know, we're basically probably going to see some kind of crash, market crash. Bitcoin, anybody messing with Bitcoin is a fool. They've totally buffaloed and messed with you. The only good part about that is places like China have like built literally these major factories, you know, that are to farm Bitcoin. Right. So that as Bitcoin goes down, you know, it's going to hurt China. The individuals who've made money, I mean, just sell and take your money. If you got Bitcoin because you were either mining it and you lucked out, you know, I tried mining years ago. I was into all that stuff before anybody even knew the names of them. But if you were lucky enough to have successfully done some mining, if you don't know what that means, I'm not even going to bother telling you because it's not worth the time. It's going down. Or if you were lucky enough to maybe buy it at $100 or $1,000 a coin, and it's now in the 40s right now, it's going to go down, 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 down. Sell. You made your money. If you have 10 Bitcoin and it's worth $45,000 or $42,000, that's $420,000, man. Get it. Buy yourself some, you know, a house and a car for cash, right? Okay. And, you know, and some other things that will be like long lasting and pay the taxes in bulk, you know, up front and just live free and get the out of, you know, any major market. I saw a doctor yesterday, like certain people are allowed to be on YouTube and they could talk about this thing and blah, blah, blah. And he was saying that basically this was an endemic. It turned into an endemic now. And like the other 4 or 5 versions of this over the past 2 decades, because, you know, remember the, you know, SC1 was like 2002, right? I showed you my test that I had, my negative test. Right. And it basically, you know, that's what it is. This is just a variant. This is a variant of something that, you know, first appeared on the scene in 2002. They call it novel. Right. It's like get your language and stuff. Figure out the difference between novel and variants and all that stuff. Well, anyway, it's going to be an endemic, which means he said it's going to be with us forever. And it's catchy, you know, the latest one. And it doesn't matter if you have the thing, you know, in the arm or if if you had it and you got immunity, because he was saying, this is some doctor on YouTube. They let him on. He's, you know, video's still up there. You could search it out. He says it gets in your upper respiratory area, and that's why the things in the arm and immunity doesn't catch it, because it like kind of lives up here and duplicates up here. And you're screwed, and you end up having basically like pretty mild, you know, or it's like a bad cold or a flu symptoms. And then that's it. Unless you have the usual, as they say, comorbidities. right? And then, and as he reiterated, he goes, an old person with like serious very elderly person with comorbidities basically can die from a cold. Always could, from a bad cold, right? So that's the thing. So they're saying this is basically that's the move now. And you'll be seeing more and more people saying that soon. It's not going away. It's going to be here forever. And that's that. Game over, right? And, and interest rates are going to start going up. Inflation is going to stay up. If you don't get out, now is the time to sell your house and to buy another cheaper house in a place where the taxes are cheaper and the cost of living is better, and you can live a freer life and you can pursue life, liberty, and happiness. I mean, plain and simple. That's, it's been a recurring message on this show. If you don't get it by now, I don't know what to do. There's our UK droid, right? He got stuck in the TARDIS, and so I just put him. He wanted to be on the show, but there he is. The TARDIS is like 14 degrees right now out in the backyard. It's crazy,
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I don't know. I really don't know. I guess I had a good night's sleep, relatively speaking. I mean, I slept 8 hours. I still have this, occasional pains in the old gallbladder and all signs that I have like some gallbladder problems. At the moment, they seem to be fine, though the lower back is kind of hurting, which is another sign of it. Lower back, upper's kidneys, right? And I once or twice had a pain in the top of my shoulder, just a fleeting pain. That's like a gallbladder thing. See, I know everything about everything. There's no need, for me. I'm tired of going to the emergency room. And apparently the emergency room now are filled with all the people who've been freaked out, by the news media. So they get a cold and they go. And everybody who goes to the hospital gets a test. So they're all going to test positive because everybody has this new thing. Because that's how catchy it is. It's catchier than the measles, they say, or whatever. So this is the world we live in now, right? The Great Reset already happened. All right, so that's that. Everything costs more, inflation, for the rest of end of time. Like I was trying to say the other day, the military-industrial complex, of course, is, while all under the cover of all this stuff, is obviously planning war games and figuring out their next thing, right? Because, that's a $1 trillion industry that's not going to want to lose its flow. The main focus of the flow of taxpayer dollars has been on big pharma right now, right? And that's why they're still putting the big push on, right? This is like the big final push, right, to get the last couple $100 billion out of people doing this, even though it's becoming more clear and more clear, right, that these numbers they're doing that thing again, figures lying, liars figure. So they're scaring people. Numbers are up, our highest ever. Yeah, except that people aren't dying in the same, quantity. And even if they did, the point of the matter is, I said this before, if 1.1 million people died when this is all said and done in the U.S., and they haven't gotten that high. But if they do, and they'll fudge the numbers if they have to, or maybe the numbers will be that way, some way, shape, or form. It's like of versus with, okay? You know what I mean? But whatever the case may be, whether it's of and with or both, it comes up to 1.1 million people. All right? Not a laughing matter, but say that's what it is. Deaths. In a country of 330 million people, all right, that would be 1/3 of 1%. That would mean that 99 point, what, 66, or something like that, percent of the people didn't die. Think about that. 99.6% of the people didn't die. In some age groups, it's 99.8%. Some, it's 99.9%. Others, it could be lower. If you're like 90s, with all kinds of problems, it could be 99.2 or just 99%. Either way, it's over 99% of the people did not die. Have you ever heard that mentioned on any newscast? I don't care if it's Fox, CNN, ABC, Newsmax. None of them. They don't say it. They say the opposite. They say big numbers because big numbers make people scary. Look, when you have high populations, I told you before, 650,000 people plus die a year from heart disease every year. Have been dying for years now. You see what I mean? So suddenly these numbers, you have to put the numbers in perspective. Over 600,000 people die of cancer every freaking year, right? There's over 2 million some deaths in this country medically related every frickin' year. And they include things like influenza and pneumonia and lower respiratory diseases and diabetes, and right? But the leading ones, 1 and 2, cancer, heart disease and cancer, they're like, those two are like 1.2 million plus people a year. Every frickin' year. They don't mention those numbers because the Heart Association wants to pretend that they're like making advancements or something. It's like that thing I showed you came from my health insurance company. They're telling people to eat macaroni and cheese and like some kind of pork something or other. All right? They should be telling people to eat fresh vegetables, fruits, and vegetables. How to make healthy foods tasty so that you like them and that kids and adults will consider eating them. I've had to do this as just the same way as I've become a gardener. I told you yesterday, I bought this honey raw. I found this stuff. It's called Nate's. You can get it. It's out there. This is honey is like a wonder, one of nature's wonder drug type of things. Okay. 100% pure, raw, and unfiltered honey, 32 ounces. I paid like less than $10 for that container. You can see I'm using it. I've been putting it in my cereal and in my food. I just got it the other day. So I'm using it. But that's what you want to get, whether it's that brand or some other brand. I don't care. I make no money on this. I'm not monetized or anything. Nobody, like my thing says, they got this whole thing shadow banned. So this is for the 3 people that somehow find this accidentally. Okay, it's not like it doesn't exist out there, but it's like I don't know. 100% pure, raw, and unfiltered is the gold standard in the honey. And like I've also said, is I do these I have a garden. I grow my own food. I knew nothing about gardening. Did not grow up in a gardening family. Did not even have a garden in our backyard. All right? Nothing of the kind. All right? Just grew up in like a neighborhood with, one of those neighborhoods. We had a one-car garage that literally was about just big enough to fit the car. Right? Okay? It was a 3-bedroom house with 3 kids. So me and my brother shared a room, had a bedroom. We had, we were kids. We had bunk beds and When we got bigger, we had, separated the beds on either side of the room. Okay? That's me. I learned this on my own. I put a seed in the ground, and I started doing things and just figuring the shit out, watching some YouTube videos. I'm a YouTuber. Anyway, and what do I get in return? YouTube shadow banning my videos. Right? A joke. They're controlling the flow of information like to such a degree that it's, it's.
This is insane.
It's ridiculous if you think about it. It really makes no sense. All because they want this.
Your papers, please.
Yeah. What is this thing about power, right? Greed and power, right? It's really hard to understand. Like even in the days when I was, and I've had good jobs and I've traveled and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into telling that story. Read my frickin' books, or watch my earlier videos. I talk about that so much that I'm just tired of talking about it. The life and times of Tony Caravan, right? But in the days when I was out there, going for it, right, and making money, right. And, counting my money and getting things and stuff like that. Right. I had no greed or the desire for power. I was the boss. I used to hate that term even. Like I could remember in a couple of jobs, people would say, "Hey, boss," or boss. And I'm like, don't call me that. Right. It's like, I was in charge. I was the, general manager. I was the publisher. I was the production supervisor. I was the impresario, the producer, the creative director, all those things and more. Editors. I mean, but, it was just what I was doing, I was on the team as much as anybody else. And as far as making money, it was like I never really argued about salary and stuff. I could have made a lot more money at some of the jobs I had. And I didn't realize that, because I wasn't interested in it. I just accepted it, And as long as I could have a decent quality of life was my goal. And when you're younger, decent quality of life is having a place, your place to live. In fact, my place to live wasn't really a super high priority as far as, I lived in some really nice places. I lived in Malibu. I lived in Beverly Hills for a spell. I lived in one of those 90210 apartments on Sunset Strip. Now that I think about it. I had a very expensive mainline Philadelphia apartment, and I've lived I had a penthouse in New York and I was in like a high rise luxurious apartment building in Philadelphia at one point, some other things like that. So I guess I did, but I just was in there and I was usually pretty Spartan, except when I was married twice. And when you're living with, a woman, they, it'd be like, inevitably there'd be furnishings bought and stuff on the walls and stuff. But, it didn't matter to me. Because anytime I got out of that scene, it was like efficiency apartment and it was about quality of life, right? That's all. And my quality of life wasn't, superficial things, materialistic things. Just the things I needed, wanted. I mean, you could say a materialistic thing could be some kind of stereo system and speakers. That's materialistic. But not ridiculous things like baubles, bangles, that kind of thing. Bling, bling. Hot cars. When I went to buy my car, my first car that I bought, my first two cars were like my dad's secondhand cars. He'd buy a new car every so many years, and he like handed down a car to me. But when I went and bought my first car, I went on the lot and I just bought a car off the lot that same day and drove it home. Literally. Like I guess there was things they even had to do. So while I'm in signing the papers or whatever I had to do, they were like, I go, yeah, I want to take this home today. I came to buy a car. It's like you go to a store, you want to buy something. And they had to I don't know what they were doing. They do some things to it. So, I could take it home. I didn't care. The color, whatever. Okay, that color. Yeah, that's fine. I didn't care. I drove that car I drove that car from New York to California. I mean, coast to coast, several times and stuff. I didn't care. So yeah, I have material things, but I didn't really, I'm not a material person in the sense of, it was functionality. Yeah, give me a car. Well, I went in to buy a refrigerator when I got this this house. My last my two apartments ago, I had a refrigerator that was one of those 1960s white things that still worked. It's like this old phone I have back here from the 60s. It's a dial phone. But when I bought the refrigerator for my house, which is I pay $200. And when I bought this house, I never came here. I bought this through Zillow. And so I bought it online. I talked to the realtor and stuff. But I didn't get the key. I didn't come down to look at it, walk through it or anything until settlement. Cuz it was a house. I didn't pay that. I paid less than $20,000 for it. My mortgage, taxes, and insurance are less than $200, just under $200. I mean, nobody's paying that kind of rent. People who have roommates are huddled together with roommates. Their share is lucky if they get $200. And I have my own private house, 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, and a giant yard. Where I grow all my food. That big tree on the right, there's 2 trees over there, and then I've got some apple trees, and you can't see on this thing because they were just starting to grow. But on the left-hand side, you see there's a pergola thing. See, this is my yard. It's pretty long, but it's only 18 feet wide. But you see, these are like grapevines, okay? They're growing all the way up the house. All right. I've got some blackberry bushes there. And then these are my these 2 littler trees. This picture is a couple years old. I've improved this place since then. And so I take the, things like grapevines and these other trees I have there. They grow real fast. So what I do is, and again,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I'm just babbling about this stuff. But the thing is, I gather wood from them because I trim them down, and I'm going to I have to create a little lean-to next to that garage, whatever they call it, a little covered area, like a little mini woodshed. because it's not like I have forest here. You know, the branches are only going to be about so thick, and the little ones are going to be very thin. But it'll be wood that I'll need, that in the instance that we end up with one of these, some kind of CME or some kind of power grid down event, and I have to cook or do stuff out there on my own, I'll have my own wood. Right. The only thing I don't have and I really want to get is a one of those mini wood stoves. You know, mini. You know, they have ones that are like literally this is like would fit in, wouldn't even take up this screen. You know, if you're looking at it on a desktop or a TV. I know there's people that build them, but you have to weld and stuff like that. And I'm not going to like buy a welder and all that kind of, and the accoutrement to go with it just to do one thing. And this is a wooden house. This is a 100-year-old wooden house. There's not like a lot of welding I need to do. So I don't want to build, I'm not going to build one. There was a chance I had to buy one a while back, but you had to pick it up. And those things weigh like 400 pounds. And I didn't have any way of getting a 400-pound thing transported, you know, from like the other side of town or something like that, let alone, and then on or off a truck, you know. So it was like, shit. I mean, I forget what it was selling for too. It was like come pick it up. It was either free or like $150 or something. I mean, those things it was the kind that would have been worth like, you know, I don't know, $1,000 or something. It was a real big one. And I was going to put it in my garage workshop place, you know, because I figured the thing about it is my house is a wooden house, but in the back here, if you notice that workshop, that's all cinder block, you know, except for the roof, which I think I might put a metal roof on there at some point because it's small. And so that would be affordable. But I would like to have a wood burner in there and finish that place off because I have water catchment there and the food. And that if the fit hit the shan, I literally could just hang out in that place. If it was in wintertime, in other words, I could just live there and live the winter out and have heat, you know, rainwater catchment coming from the, you know, the rain spouts, and then just running through one of those Berkey filters. And I guess I'd have to do one of those compost toilet things just to get me through the winter. The summertime, it would be a different story. My house would be fine to live in. But yeah, you know, these things that people just don't think about, you know. But I'm telling you, you know, it's like
people, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise. People, you sit there, you're in for one big surprise.
I mean, that's one of the best, you got to admit. Anyway. So, and you know, I have this thing, you know, which, you know, I used to keep up, but it's like, and I even have the sound effects for this, but I got like hit up with some kind of goofy, you know, some place in, I don't know, over in Europe or something. These copyright strikes for like for a clip because some goofball used it in a music video or something, a rap video or something, and somehow they got copyrights to a clip from a movie. It happened to me with like other things like that, like the theme from Gilligan's Island or something. Like it didn't come from the company, you know, the production studio, the producers, or anything to do with the people who made Gilligan's Island, right? Came from some place in like Germany, or something, and they give you, and you end up getting like a strike, a warning. One of them turned into a warning. I have a warning, a permanent scar on my record, they would never take it away. Do you see what I mean by game over? I mean, you tell me a way out of this mess. See, it's one of those things like sometimes, that happen that, all right, I'm going to show you something now. This is ridiculous. I'm going to take you to this display capture. All right. And now what we're looking at, you're looking at the YouTube Studio interface. Okay. Now, as you can see, there's no viewers. There says there's one playback, average watch time, 9 seconds. That's the YouTube algorithm. That's all that is, okay? That's so they can make sure, okay, let's make sure this guy's shadow banned. All right. Now, let's look over in the chat. And I put in a chat to start things off that says, give a shout out if you're watching. Thanks. Now, look at this. Some kind of Cyrillic text, and then this isn't Cyrillic. This is just meaningless words here. Right? Now, that's 4 different entries, okay, in the chat. But they never showed up as in the chat rate. There's nothing. This grid should show like a thing, an arrow coming up, right? You see? Playbacks, whatever. No. So what is this stuff? So basically what I do is I report it as pornography. All right? Because I don't know, a friend of mine said that's what that stuff is. So I'm just doing what I heard. And of course, these guys aren't going to argue because whatever it is they're doing is illegal to begin with, or is definitely against the community guidelines. But the point is, what I'm trying to get at is, how is it possible that they got in there and it's not even recorded as a chat or as a anything? Right? You see the games that YouTube plays? I mean, that's why I did this thing, I mean, this thing is so shadow banned that the analytics aren't even functioning. Right? I mean, there were 4 people, entities, bots, whatever. Doesn't matter. A bot is still, the whole concept is the bot is a thing that is, is masquerading itself as a, person or a viewer or whatever that, somehow got in to the, on the channel, on this particular, live, YouTube stream, and put in their chat. They're not showing up. And YouTube allows it. And you're telling me it's usually the same like couple of like things, and they know that. So what's up with that? Or is that entrapment? They put those in there so that like somewhere down the line they can say we got rid of you. You had in your chat, there was some link to some kind of site which is against our community guidelines. So yeah, I just, and I can't even see here. I just have to check every now and then to see if one comes in. Which you can't tell, but I mean, every now and then I have to click over there to see if something comes in. Because I'm not monitoring my chat. My back is killing me. Take care of your health, Because otherwise, you'll wake up sometime with some kind of weird pain.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Ain't gonna be nice. Ain't gonna be nice. Buy my song or listen to my song on Spotify, Virtual Cage. Let's get this thing to number 1. Let's get it to number 1 on Spotify. It's a good tune. Though, I was listening to it on Amazon the other night, and it almost sounded like the music and the voice were almost like out of sync. I'm like, man, has it gotten to that point? People are probably, at this point, if I had viewers, I may have like 10,000 viewers right now, and it's just not letting me know. I don't know. So that's why I do these things. Because sometimes I get responses and people reply to things, or I post this on like some other area, locals and some other things in different places, and people like are alluding to things I've said in my show. But then when I look at the viewers, they were never there, So for all I know, this is the most popular show on the internet. I probably have as many viewers as PewDiePie and Rogan, I'm serious about that. There's no way of knowing. See, people don't think about that. That's another aspect of shadow banning. That they don't, if they show the number as being 0 viewers or 3 viewers, people go, So they don't, to keep you from going. Like, let's just look here. I'm going to go to display capture again, because I posted some weird things on Twitter. And I told you on, let's see if we can get to Twitter. I don't know if I want to go in like that. Let's see what happens. I'm not going to do this. Son of a bit. I just want to go on Twitter. I don't want people. It is possible to go to Twitter without being somebody, right? Sign up. You mean you can't go to Twitter unless you are signed in? Holy shit. What if I just X that out? I don't want to sign in. I just want to look. Let's see, Twitter. Let's see if, there we go. Oh no, actually somebody has my name as a Twitter account. Isn't that weird? That's strange. Let's see. Is it ROCKFLUX? Account suspended. Twitter suspends accounts which violate Twitter rules. So they did suspend me, I guess. Yeah. Well, that's good. Account suspended. Settings. Your Twitter data account. General. Explore. And of course, they send you to things like MSNBC and BuzzFeed. All right. Well, that was my intention. Look here, another one of these things came in while I was doing that. They don't suspend them, though, do they? Well, anyway, I intentionally allowed that to happen because I made some crazy tweets yesterday. Because I get tired of it. But the funny thing was, I haven't been on Twitter in like well over a year and a half. The only thing I've done on Twitter is fairly, on a fairly regular basis, I would just post a link, but I wouldn't even go to Twitter. I would just hit the share on YouTube, and I would share the video on my Twitter account. Okay. So yesterday I went and I posted. I did the 4 things that are like guaranteed to get you banned, and it was up. They didn't catch on to it, I guess, till overnight. So that's interesting. They must have reduced their staff or something. I don't know, because apparently the algorithms aren't doing it, because that should have caught it right away. But I still had a couple thousand followers on Twitter, right? Now that they've banned me, suspended my account, it's not coming back. The stuff I said was like, forget it, But there was a day, the reason I left Twitter, I stopped posting, was that they had a big purge about a year and a half or so ago, like 2 years ago. Because, it was about a year and a half to 2 years ago. And where overnight, or literally within 1 week, they got rid of like millions of people. And I had like I don't forget how many I was up to, my followers, and I was losing like a day per day, 1,000 followers were just vanishing. They weren't, people weren't, it's not like they weren't following me. And so I ended up with about 2,000 followers when it was all said and done. And I still was surprised to see yesterday I still had like 2,000 followers. So at least I got the message out to those 2,000 people. Or at least several hundred of them, saw it before they banned it. Account suspended. I'm pretty sure that's account suspended. The only other way of checking that out is I could check it out here. Let's see. I'll just double check, because it's hard to say, how this works. You can't see what I'm doing right now because it doesn't really matter. If I see it, if it's still up, I'll show it to you. I doubt if it is. Let's see. Wait a second. Oh, no. Hey, wait a second. No, actually, I'm going to show you something. It's still up. See, I still have 2,000 followers. We'll look at some notifications here. That is so weird, man. That is so weird. Well, it's at Real Tony Caravan. I don't have a blue check, but I probably should. I don't know why I never got one. Guy wrote 10 books and 50 songs. Of course, now I talked about it. Now I'd probably do it. So, that's right. At ROCKFLUX was some band or somebody else, I guess, was somebody else. There's some band or somebody like used it. And, but I've owned ROCKFLUX.com and stuff like that, and have basically trademarked it, back in the 90s. In any event, and published with it, like on my books, see. In fact, let's see. Even in the publishing section of my books, it's ROCKFLUX. You ought to get this book, man. It's a classic. So yeah, that's weird. That's really weird. That's weird. I'm definitely not going to publish this video on YouTube. Share this one. Virtual cage. So there was this other thing I was going to talk about. So, I mean, obviously YouTube is shadow banning me. And like a friend of mine said about the Twitter thing is that maybe they have the shadow banning thing down so much that they don't care. Like it's hidden in their mind. It's hidden, but it's not, because I put stuff in replies. So I'll just have to manually close the account because I don't care. I didn't go to that Getter thing. I don't even know what it is. Do you know what it is? I don't even know what it is. We could go look at it together since today's one of these freeform shows. New window. What's it called? Getter with 2 T's. Let's see. The marketplace of ideas. I see. They don't let's see if you can explore without signing up. Yeah, I see. So they basically, it's the same it's Twitter, right? Some people feel a need to express themselves this way, I guess. It's interesting. I don't know. The thing about me is that I used to be a Twitter person before I was doing the daily. I used to do like garden videos and weird stuff, with voiceovers, and I'd express myself and whatnot. But it's like I got out of the Twitter thing because it was like, I don't know. It's like arguing. I felt it gets to the point. It's like when you're arguing with somebody, it's like arguing with a 2-year-old, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right? No one should argue with a 2-year-old. A child. Or the same, likewise, no one should argue with some kind of ideologue. All right. That's always been my thing that I repeat on this show all the time. It's like people who make campaign contributions. The lion's share of that money goes to campaign TV ads. And those ads appear on like MSNBC on the Rachel Maddow show or something. So like, do you think anybody watching that show is going to see this ad for MAGA or somebody and go, oh, wow, I never realized that. I think I'm going to vote for him. It's like, yeah, get lost. They're not going to, they're going to like, they're either going to curse at the TV or just leave the room and go to the restroom and make a sandwich. Right. So what? You're just wasting your money. So that's why I just lost. That's when I so there was the great purge of Twitter, like I say, about a year and a half ago, prior to the 2020 election, because it's just, they want to control the flow of information. They wanted to. They now do control the flow of information. And so I said, okay, well, you just got rid of all the interesting people, because a lot of the people were kind of, funny, too, in their social criticism. Because, that's what this show is. It's social criticism. I'm not political. I really don't care anymore about that stuff. But I do criticize it. I'm in the social criticism, pop culture, right? Because I'm against politics taking over pop culture. So they got rid of all the social critics who were actually somewhat humorous. And so all that were left were these like extremists that there was no arguing with them, right? Because they don't care. They were ideologues. They're brainwashed. They're gone. Their brains are gone. And so I just lost interest. It's like, well, you're not going to do it. It's like the 2-year-old child. You know, you either figure, you either understand, talk to a child psychologist on how to deal with like a young child, right? And it's either give them the ice cream cone, right here, kid, have an ice cream cone, or whatever the child psychologist tells you to, another way of dealing with, some kid that's being unreasonable or something like that, right? But arguing with them isn't going to get you anywhere, right? Because they're not going to listen to reason, not at that age. And most of these people out there, it's like these protesters on the street. They're acting like 2-year-olds. They won't listen to reason. Now, once they get a little older, you could reason with them. You could say, well, you can't have ice cream every day, or whatever. Or there is no ice cream in a refrigerator, in a freezer. But, at that other point, so that's what that's what I see when I see these people with the cardboard signs and stuff. I see a bunch of little children, walking around in diapers. Instead of the diaper being around their ass, they got the diaper on their face. But basically, they're like toddlers. They're acting like toddlers. So the answer is talk to a child psychologist or read a book on child psychology if you want to deal with people on the far left at this point. And the same with people on the far right, too, because, the same deal. If you're that extreme, right, you're unreasonable. And you can't reason with an unreasonable person. And that's the state of affairs today in the world, really, except for these poor nations that, we just don't talk about and we abandon and that are just ignored. But there's people trying to live lives, the continent of Africa, how often is that in the news, right? Even South America. You notice how like Venezuela has vanished? That was like an issue there for a while about the oppression and the starving and all the stuff that was going on there. And nobody talks about it. They're talking about like nonsense. The government is basically a wing. Well, it is not a government. It's a corporatocracy, but has pushed big pharma in the foreground. And so everything now is to try to have big pharma have its most profitable years in history, right? The past couple of years. And along with that, the big, the Amazons, Walmarts, and the other places, box stores that do home delivery, right? That's where the focus is now. Imagine that. And nobody cares about all these other people suffering. It's like those people talk about, border, open borders, and these are bigoted people putting up a wall or something. Yeah, well, how come you're not talking about the plight of all the people down there? I always wondered, didn't it ever wonder why? And this goes on both sides of, the argument, so to speak. It's like there was never any real serious attempt. Like you could take the UN and like the World Economic Forum, because that's what all that is. Like these people that think, and these great, the fake philanthropists like the Gates Foundation, right? Those things are just scams. They're money laundering operations, because what they do is they put their money into the foundation to get a tax break. And then the foundation purchases whatever it's going to do from a company that they have shares in. So then they profit from that. You see? But they get the tax break up front. And yeah, they do distribute some kind of thing to somebody somewhere, but there's so much money is taken in the whole bureaucracy, and in the kickbacks and stuff like that, that it's not nearly the amount of money that they got the tax break from and the kickback they got as a shareholder in the company that the foundation used. If you could follow that, what I'm talking about, it's pretty weird. I've seen some people detail it, specifically. But I always wondered, these people coming up from Nicaragua, and Central American countries, Mexico, and and South American countries, and like I say, Venezuela and all that. You would talk about the suffering and but the UN wasn't down there, doing anything. And I'm not talking at the border. I'm talking about in those countries. And people say, "Oh, there's UN, aid workers down there, and some foundations are." No, I'm talking about some Herculean, effort, like a problem-solving effort. I was talking to somebody on the phone yesterday. All right.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Yeah, let me get into this. Let's see if any more of those. Oh, see if any more of these idiots. No, nothing yet. Those goofball things. 6:02 a.m. on the 8th of January, by the way. And the temperature's in the teens in the mid-Atlantic states. It's going to be a cold day across most of the upper half of the U.S. Anyway, and Canada. Now, I was saying that, I was talking to somebody yesterday. And what was I talking about? Get on these tangents. And then you got to dig your mind back, rewind the brain, right? I was talking about foundations, money going to this place, to that place. Man, this is like totally getting lost. Out of sight, out of mind. People really cared about a thing. They'd be talking about Venezuela. Jeez, what was I talking about? This is the hard part about not having anybody watching. Because if somebody was watching, they could chat to me now. What was I talking about? So what came in was one of these, some Cyrillic, and then it's at vum.spaceong. I'm not going to go to it because if the moment you go to it, you're probably put on some kind of list of some kind of, I'm trying to say, I think it's like entrapment or like sting operations. I mean, that's what I think they do. I think it's all weird stuff like that. They, to put it on your dossier. Right. But I don't know what I was talking about, but, I'll just try to babble and maybe it'll come back to me in the midst of it. But how we don't care, I mean, it's whichever way you look at it, and whatever I was trying to get, a point I was trying to raise, is that we're not paying attention to the things that really matter. Quality of life matters. I talked a lot about that yesterday. But that people... in general, here it is. It came to me finally. When I was, and this had to do with this UN. When I was in certain positions over the years, like I'm retired now, all right? So I don't, I just live and I do this and I wrote books and songs and do 2-hour movies. That's what these things are. 2-hour videos. But when I had certain positions, not all, some positions were just, positions, work, you did something, you created something, that kind of thing. But there were certain positions, and this got back to what I was saying earlier, where people would call you boss and stuff like that. And the idea was, I was saying, I never was in those positions because I wanted to be a well-liked person. In many instances, I took those jobs because I had a conversation with the owner of a business, say. I owned my own businesses over the years. I had my own companies, I published my own things and stuff like that. But when I worked for other people, it was usually came out of a conversation I had with the owner of the company. All right? Because because I was usually I was the boss, right? So I was hired as a general manager or as a whatever, the guy in charge. And so the reason they hired me is because I was a problem solver type of person, a no-nonsense go-getter. And I was well-traveled and I had a broad education, in both, book knowledge, so to speak, understanding facts of life, not those facts of life, but, I understood those facts of life too. But I mean, just, the way people were, human behavior. Okay. Very important thing to understand, human behavior. If you're in any kind of management position, person in charge. So I was hired because I could get the job done. And most of these people were the situations that I was put in was a situation in which the company was basically on the verge of collapsing. In other words, they were losing a lot of money. And they might have been losing money for a couple of years, or they were in a downward spiral where that wasn't sustainable. And the current management and staff just weren't doing it. And so they needed somebody to come in and like take the bull by the horns, so to speak, and just and so it was like, I was a no-nonsense type of person. But I was a, happy-go-lucky, fun guy and all that stuff, But I was no-nonsense, right? I was hired for a purpose, so I got the job done. And so some people call it business turnaround. I was like a turnaround specialist, right? And so I would go in and assess the situation in a very short period of time because I had that ability of understanding both human behavior and the way and a broad sense of how things worked. Okay? And so I would do my assessment. I would meet again with the owners and I would present, I'm saying, here's what I'm going to do. This is this might be considered pretty radical. So I want you to okay, because I'm going to fire 16 people. I'm going to change this. I need a little bit of budget. I need you to put in, even though you're losing money on this, I need you to put a little bit of money here because I need to get this piece of equipment or that thing or do this type of thing. And I can have this thing turned around within, 30, 60, 90 days. And if, they'd look at it, and usually my plan was sound. I've never been turned down. And they would approve it and said, go for it, man. Go for it. What do we got? And the ideas was, and if somebody was even hesitant, I would say, what do you have to lose? You're already on rock bottom. This company's on its way down. Okay? So you got nothing to lose. But very, very few times I had to say that because most times these were intelligent people. They knew that. That's why they brought me in the first place. So I went in, and unfortunately, I would go in, and it would be like I would have to usually fire a lot of people that were just dead weight. People sitting around, pushing papers around, plain work, looking forward to the 10 o'clock smoke break, the lunch break, and then the 2 o'clock smoke break, and then to go home. And all day Friday, all they were thinking about is what they were going to do on the weekend. I'm sorry, that's not the way it works, when you're at a certain level in business. As you get older and you become in management, you do whatever you want to. If I felt like going out and having a 2-hour lunch and I knew the business was going to run, I could go out and have a 2-hour lunch and have a couple of beers and come back, with a slight buzz on and just put my feet up on the desk and call people into my office and, and review what's going on and make sure everything's running smoothly and then eventually go home or go back to happy hours. It's a whole different story in management as opposed to somebody who's hired to do a job. Some people go like, man, that sound, I hate people like that. Point of the matter was, in every instance, every instance I was involved in, and excuse me, what happened?
Really funny. Really funny.
A little comic relief. In every instance, I turned around those companies. And I not only turned them around to where they weren't losing money, but I turned them around to a point where they became profitable. And did I stay around to kick my feet up on my desk, right, and take the 2-hour lunches and just go to happy hours? No. I usually put in like a 2-month. Once I knew everything was happening and all that, I put in like a 2-month notice. Not a 2-week, a 2-month notice. Because I wanted to make sure everything was fine. And I'd say, no, I'm going to leave in 2 months. My work here is done. And they're like, oh, you don't have to. Yeah, you don't need me. 2 months, I'm going to make sure, and I'm going to take somebody from within the organization and move and over those 2 months, train them to take the position, to do the job functions that I was doing. Okay. And to make sure that machine is operating, properly. And that's what I did. And I was talking to this person on the phone yesterday, and I said, that's the problem we have right now. If you look at companies, government, which I call the corporatocracy, definitely bureaucracies, and, sick bureaucracies like the UN or the World Economic Forum and all that stuff, they have nobody like me there. They don't have anybody who comes in and who's a turnaround to get the turnaround specialist or somebody who gets the job done. Right? Even this whole plague thing, that went on. They used to have these press conferences every day, and I used to watch them out of boredom. This is 2 years ago now, right? Oh, coming on 2 years ago. And I'd watch these things, and I'd be like, every day it'd be the same old thing. It's like even they have press conferences now, which I don't watch, but every now and then I've seen a clip or two. And it's the same old stuff that's been going on for years. A bunch of kids, a bunch of these reporters, the White House press corps, right, who are sitting in these little chairs like school kids, and they're raising their hands. Teacher, I have a question. Right? And they're asking some silly, stupid-ass question, right? But it's the same type of questions, right? There's nobody getting anything done, right? It's like the same with the military, right? These generals. That Afghanistan debacle, crazy stuff, which the news media is just still totally ignoring. See, you have a guy, in office who clearly has mental fog at the very least, okay? But they're giving him some pretty good drugs. I mean, that's the deal with the devil he made, and the devil's the Big Pharma. Big Pharma is giving him some really good clarity drugs. Let's face the facts. You know it. He's a changed man from where he was a year ago, right? A year ago, his wife literally was carrying him around by the arm, and he was trying to walk in the wrong direction and stuff, right? He didn't know what was what. The thing, right? But now he is now he's able to function. But the point is, he's still, it's just a matter of, whatever they're giving him. He's on the experimental drugs that haven't made it to the FDA yet. They haven't even made it to the FDA. And that's the deal with the devil he's making and why he's pushing these things so much. Because Big Pharma is basically saying, if you want to, we'll keep you alive to be 100, man. We'll cure this. We'll reverse this thing. We've got stuff. Remember, it's the year 2022. biotech is like way advanced, way far more advanced than they're letting us know, the average person know, right? I know. Read my book, Codex. I talk about AI and all that kind of stuff. But the idea is that, a lot of people don't even know about, because I have a picture in this book, just for the sake of it. Where is it? I think it's in the front. Yeah. A lot of people aren't even familiar with these Boston Dynamic robots. I mean, a lot of YouTubers are, right? But they don't even understand the concept of like how advanced robotics are. And forget about these stupid, YouTube videos and stuff, or that, that weird fembot that they've got floating around. They put a wig on her, right? Put a fucking wig on her head, man. I'm tired of looking at a plastic thing. What's the purpose of that? Put a wig on her. But, people see that and they think that's like state-of-the-art tech in robotics. No. It's not. It's way, 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 way beyond that, right? It's like AIs, way, way beyond your voice assistant, your Echo Dot or thing like that. Way, way beyond that. So, yeah, he made a deal with the devil. So why doesn't somebody go in? I was talking about Afghanistan, okay? Where are these generals, okay? Because the military is really disappointing right now. Like I said before, it's like it's no longer a situation where you have a few bad apples, right, in the FBI or the NYPD or the CIA or the Pentagon, right? It's like you have a few good men and women, all right, who serve, right? That's what it is now. You have a few good ones. In other words, it's because the lion's share have become like bureaucrats. And the Pentagon has become a bureaucracy. And these generals are just fat cats sitting around playing war games, thinking about this, that, the other. They're not like no-nonsense Patton type guys like I'm going to drive on up. Or even Eisenhower, right? All right, I'm going to take care of this. Let's finish him off. Right? You got a couple of guys like that, and believe me, those guys are pushed way, way back, and especially by the current administration. All right? Instead, you got, like I talked about yesterday, that general, whatever his name is, not worth mentioning, right? The guy's not worth mentioning because he's a traitor, who's calling the Chinese people up, communists, saying, hey, don't worry, I'll call you first if we're going to be doing anything. I'll let you know if we're going to be like, if there's any military action, don't worry. Imagine that. And that guy's not down at Gitmo. What got me is that, there's some places in like like Fargo, like the upper Midwest, in the Great Plains. I always thought, because they always had this thing, like, remember they were going to get rid of Gitmo, but then they didn't know what to do with these people. I think they should have just rebuilt that place somewhere up, right on the border, up there in the border, in the coldest, snowy wilderness places, right? And put those people up there. And that general guy should be in there. And they should just be in these like places that are kept just at the temperature that's enough that the human body can survive. All right? And they should be fed, and they should have like a pig. If you ever see people who have pigs, I'm against that too, by the way. I hate these. I hate watching these YouTube videos where people like have these pigs and they pet them on their head, and the pigs, when they come, the pigs run over to them like little pets, and they're so happy to see them, and they feed them and stuff, and then they kill them and they make bacon out of them. I'm sorry, man. Very annoying. But anyway, what they do with these pigs is they have these things where they could like get the water out themselves. And so in their cinder block room, okay, right, on this on this cinder block bed, right, with a cold, jail type toilet, they should basically get their own water. And then every day they should be just given the basic sustenance of life. All right. Does that sound like cruel and unusual punishment? Yeah. I think that's what they should do with these people, because they've caused the deaths and dismemberment and suicides of so many beautiful people and wrecked so many families that's what they deserve. Hell on earth. All right. And that general should definitely be there. And that should be the new Gitmo, right? Somewhere up there. And there's no escaping. Like, everybody's seen the movie Fargo and stuff. Where they went up north, even north, you go further up, right up north towards the border. Like in these open plain area. So if someone got out, right, even if they did, like someone was able to escape somehow, right, there'd be like, 50 miles of frozen wasteland. You forget it, right? You could just, in the wintertime, you could just leave them there, And in the summer, I would, that's what I mean. I don't think I would even have guards. I would have it like an automat. Like I say, you'd have to like put your mouth on there to get water out of this thing like a pig. And you would get a food pellets, right? Sustenance, which would be like fiber with vitamins infused, like like kibble, dog food. And if there was somebody who had no teeth, they could get like some kind of moist dog food type of stuff. But, that kind of thing. And outside of the things, I would basically just have like cameras and cameras that were laser guided things, right? And if somehow there was some kind of break, which would be impossible because I would make the place like just, concrete, reinforced rebar concrete type of cells, But if somehow someone broke out, they would just be maybe the lasers would just point at the legs, laser guided, so that it would just take off a foot, right? And cauterize it while it did it. And, in the wintertime, you wouldn't have to worry. They would just freeze to death, so they'd be a fool if someone would break out. But in the summertime, even though they couldn't make it 50 miles, they would take off their foot, so they couldn't get anywhere. So you wouldn't even have to waste, resources. And you could have those Boston Dynamic robots, a couple of those up there, just to, That was a weird coffee today. I put some I put a dash of nutmeg in it, and I put a dash of instant coffee and a slight bit of cinnamon. But it was basically like my 100% Colombian coffee through a coffee maker. And then I added some vanilla chai. Well, it was no great thing. It was just coffee. But anyway, so I don't blame like Dementia Joe for Afghanistan. The guy's got no mind, He's on clarity drugs that Big Pharma's given him because he's going along with the program so they can make hundreds of billions of dollars on this thing that basically, like I said, that doctor was saying yesterday, the reason immunity doesn't matter right now is this thing never makes it to your immune system. It's the way this guy was explaining it. The latest so-called variant. It just doesn't make it. It stays upper. It doesn't make it to the lower respiratory. unless you have pre-existing conditions and the comorbidities, in which case you're going to die anyway. You're going to die. You'll die of the common cold if you have if you've got comorbidities and you're ancient, unless you're rich, right? And somebody else died yesterday. I forget who it was, and they were like in their 90s. These wealthy, famous, whatever type people, musicians, actors, and politicians, right? They all live well into their 90s, and but not the average person. For the average person, we went through that in a previous show. The average age, life expectancy, has actually dropped a year, and this is prior to this thing. Okay, and that's all because of the processed foods and all this other crap they're feeding us, and all the the overexposure to all of these ridiculous things. I mean, I haven't done it in a while. I don't even know where it is. The whole radiation thing. If I point my radiation meter here, where is that? I don't even know if the battery still works in this thing. Let's see. Battery's probably dead. It looks like it was on. There we go. Watch. The red light on this, see if I point it over here, see how the red light, my hands aren't doing anything. Watch, I'm just turning this thing with my hand. But if I point it over to the futon or something, then I point it back to here, to the computer. And that red light means, let's see if I can, it's hard to, these damn computer cameras suck. If you look very closely, it says electromagnetic radiation detector, tester or whatever. And so, let's turn it off. This is just a lab instrument. This is no toy. This is the real deal, okay? And so one of the reasons why life expectancy's gone down is because, and testosterone, apart from soy, soy boys they talk about, people under 40, they're like, they even look alike. You notice that? A lot of the guys look alike and stuff. And they call them soy boys because, they're into all this soy stuff is in everything. In fact, I got to watch it. There's soy in this vanilla chai. I didn't realize that. So it's like the last week I buy that crap. Though I only use like a creamer. So I doubt if it could be enough to do anything. I hear people talking outside. Let's see if we see heads pass by the porch. But the other thing is all of this electromagnetic radiation. And of course, the magnetic field of the Earth is weak now too. So we are getting all these cosmic rays and stuff. And so life expectancy for the average person has gone down by 1.8 years. We looked up those statistics the other day. CDC, by the way. So that's almost 2 years, man. And so this government's pretending they're like the father protector, of our health and telling us all these things. But life expectancy for the average American has gone down almost 2 years. That's sick, And 99.99% plus people did not die in the past 2 years from this thing that they're like obsessing about every day. I mean, that's a fact. That's just the real numbers. Now, when they give you the raw numbers, they're scary. But I told you, if I could give you the raw numbers for heart disease, it's like 650,000 people die a year, something like that. And cancer is like 600,000, or something like that. So, raw numbers are scary, but in a country of 330 million people, you have to understand that. So they're failing us when it comes to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, right? Respiratory disease and influenza, pneumonia, and all that stuff. Even suicides, you know? And then there's all these other kind of diseases that nobody even knows what the hell they are. I don't. Anyway, I look at them and there's like necrosis. I don't, you know, they're like these weird names. I didn't even know what the hell they are. You have to go to medical school to figure them the fuck out. So there's all this primary focus, you know, and basically it's all, you know, let's face the facts. All it is hypocrisy for profit. Right? They're claiming to have some kind of moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform to. It's pretense. It's like AOC. She was pushing, you know, the things, you know, and she was down there partying, you know, down in Miami, you know, like, you know, shaking her gazungas. Right? Laughing it up. She's a hypocrite. She's living well. She's living the life. Hypocrisy for profit. Right? She probably didn't even pay for the flight down there, you know, or whatever. Hypocrisy for profit. Probably getting free drinks. I mean, you know, that's the thing. So the snow's still out there. And this is coming because of this. But yeah, YouTube shadow banning this video. If you can see it, acknowledge it in the chat. Not a single person. It's shadow ban. There's 2 billion YouTube users. There's 1 billion of them on on this side of the planet right now. And you're telling me that, and this is just should be listed on the live, right? You're telling me out of 1 billion people, it's 6:30 a.m. Out of 1 billion people, potentially, cut it in half to 500 million, you know, cut it in quarters to 250 million. Then not a single person even is curious. Huh. And yet I keep getting these like weird, freaky, you know, some kind of scam chats, but they don't show up as if they're like, if they're entering the site. So how's that happen? So are there 10,000 or 100,000 people watching the show live right now? But they're not letting you chat? They only let these weird chat bots in or something? I don't know. It's just weird. So I'm not going to be doing these things that much. You know, it's cold. And, you know, I really should be exercising. But, like, you know, people around here don't shovel. So, like I said, temperature-wise, let me check here. It's 12 degrees outside, okay? Even when the sun comes out, supposedly around 9 or 10 or something, it's only going to be like 16, maybe get up 19 degrees. But the point is, if I were to go to try to walk to the store, there's snow on the ground. People haven't shoveled their sidewalks. So imagine the snow. It's like crunchy snow, icy, whatever. And walking like a mile in that. And, you know, I can't do that. Right? If I wanted to. I don't want to kill myself. I'm not going to go. You know what I mean? I want to go out and get some exercise. First of all, it's wind chill, you know, probably, you know, this is Fahrenheit. We're talking 12 degrees Fahrenheit. You know, so we're way below 0 Celsius. But the wind chill is probably 0 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Below 0 Fahrenheit. So, yeah, the temperatures, it's, you know, so I'll do these shows. I'll do this show. Why not? Talk about this stuff. What the heck? I don't care. I mean, it's like YouTube wants to play a game. Shadow banning. Or, post dating, the video. Or putting you back. It's like Google does. They put you back so many pages that if somebody searches for you, I told you that. I said that before in shows. I've already searched my name and Tony Bennett came up first. Yeah. The whole thing is so whacked out. And so, they control the flow of information. That's the title of this show. And it is game over, like my hat says, and really, it doesn't really matter, it really doesn't really matter. Hear all these weird noises. Might have been my cat. No, it's somebody outside. I don't know what they're doing. It's 12 degrees out there. Can't be standing there waiting for it. They could be. There's probably people out there. Yeah, there's people over there. If you look very closely, there's people over there waiting for a bus. They can't see me because this camera is in a position where I'm invisible, but the camera is in front of the barrier, the privacy barrier. I just put it there just to demonstrate the traffic on the road. It's a Saturday morning, I guess people partied last night or something. I'd like to sit around and have a couple of beers today, but I've been having this gallbladder thing. And it's like, it sucks. It's like,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I don't want to have to have an operation, I don't have another piece of my body removed. It's crazy. So, but if you did watch this and you made it this far,
the only station that matters,
spread the word.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
Well, I think we're going to get the show off the road. I think I'm just going to say farewell.
Good morning.
Check out my site, TonyCaravanLive.com, ROCKFLUX.com. There's a Game Over hoodie. You can get a Game Over shirt, tee. You can get Game Over anything, And the links are on ROCKFLUX.com and Tony Caravan Live. And, of course, my book. And like I say, I'm trying to push my songs, Ask your Echo Dot to play music by Tony Caravan or whatever. I'm on Apple Music, all those places, Spotify. And I can hear the plows out there, which are probably going to shoot all of the snow. See, what they do at this point is then they try to clean the street completely. So they'll force all the snow onto the sidewalks. I'm not looking forward to that. Anyway, take care.